Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do.
It's here. Oh, hello. I've been waiting for this. Look at this. This is my new walkie-talkie. Oh, all the harbor masters have these now. With my new walkie-talkie, I can stand right here at my window, and I can talk to the ships that are coming and going in the big harbor below. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Doesn't seem to be working. Well, it's very complicated. I mean, with all these buttons and knobs and switches and things. Hello? I don't think I'm going to be able to get this to work. You know, I feel just like Theodore felt the time he tried to do something and just couldn't. You know, that's a good story for today. It was so early one morning, the sun hadn't even woken up yet. Theodore. George. It was the dispatcher.
Good morning,
yawned the two tugs. Sorry to wake you up, said the dispatcher, but a ship has arrived early and I need you to bring her in right away. Now Theodore was wide awake. A big job to start the day, he smiled. This'll be great.
Oh, just another day's work,
said George, already grooming his big engine. Well, even if George thought it was nothing special, it was special to Theodore.
Hello?
George shouted to the big ship whose name was Caroquet.
I'm George, and I'm here to take you to the harbor.
And I'm Theodore. I'm helping. Please, keep nice and steady when you move me,
said Caroquet.
My cargo can roll off my deck really easily. George, is there some special way we should move Caroquet?
Oh, I can handle it, boomed George. I've done this 1,000,000 times.
George roared right up to Caroquet to tie his tow rope on, while Theodore carefully floated along to the back. Then he slowly nudged up beside the ship as gently as he could. As the two tugs moved the giant ship through the harbor, George was vrooming and booming his engine, blasting his big whistle, and blowing up smoke. Theodore wished George would stop making so much noise and blowing so much smoke. It took all his careful attention just to keep Caroquet steady so she'd have a smooth ride into the harbor. And now, George was going even faster. Theodore tightened his tow rope and tried to do the best he could, but it was very hard work. Finally, the tugs were at the dock with Caroquet. Now came the hardest part, stopping a ship that was as big as a building. Theodore wanted to slow Caroquet down as smoothly as possible.
Stop it!
Hollered George. And then, George hauled Caroquet to a stop with his powerful tow rope all by himself. Oh, that was really tough tugging, puffed Theodore.
Oh, I've done it 1,000,000 times,
said George.
Oh, that was easy.
Well, it might have been easy for George, but Theodore felt tired deep down to his engine. Sometimes working with George was, well, hard work. But then, his good old Theodore's smile came back. At least I'll have a good story to tell everyone at the dock tonight, he thought. That night, when the tugs were all gathered round the great ocean dock for storytelling time, Theodore was enjoying telling everyone about his tough tugging day. Caracat was really big, and she had lots of cargo on her deck.
Oh, Caracat wasn't that big,
Interrupted George, vrooming his engine and drowning out Theodore.
I've moved millions of bigger ships. Let me tell you about the time.
Well, George began to tell his own story and didn't give Theodore a chance to say another word. Theodore slowly floated over to the dispatcher. Can I go visit Owen? He asked. I don't feel like listening to stories right now. Oh, of course you may, Theodore, said the dispatcher, but don't be late.
Well, Theodore, what a surprise. Ha! Yes, sirree, Bob. What brings you out here?
Owen is a very loud oil rig.
Oh, I just don't feel like listening to George's old stories,
replied Theodore.
Well, gee willikers,
Hollered Owen.
George makes noise when I want to be quiet,
Sighed Theodore.
and he goes fast when I want to go slow, and he never lets me tell any stories. I guess we're just different.
you mean you're not friends anymore?
Well, not like you and me, Owen,
Continued Theodore.
Well, we like the same knock-knock jokes, and starfish, and I Spy.
Well, I spy something sleepy.
Owen suddenly shouted. Theodore looked around. And there was a dark shape sliding silently through the water.
Well, if it isn't Northumberland.
Sure enough, Northumberland's submarine came slipping along on his way out to spend the night deep beneath the ocean.
Howdy doody, Northumberland.
Continued Owen in a voice that was so loud it made Theodore's bumper shake.
How's every little thing down there? Huh? Is it wet enough for you? Ha ha ha!
Hello, Owen, yawned Northumberland. You see, Northumberland is always very sleepy when he first wakes up. And Northumberland always wakes up just before dark.
What's that you said? Couldn't quite hear you.
Owen, whispered Theodore. Northumberland likes it quiet.
Quiet? Who can be quiet with all this noise?
Uh-oh, Theodore said to himself. Well, how is everything? Called Northumberland in a friendly voice.
Terrific!
Owen boomed back.
Sure is nice and peaceful this time of night.
It really is, yawned Northumberland.
Going out under the ocean, huh, Northumberland? Here, let me light the way.
Owen, said Northumberland, I kind of like to sneak in and out of the harbor. Would you mind turning off your lights?
Oh yeah, yes, sirree, Bob. How's that? Dark enough for you now?
Perfect, said Northumberland. Oh, could you talk a little quieter?
Oh, sure.
Whispered Owen. Is this better? Well, Theodore had never heard Owen whisper before. Oh, much better, Owen. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sirree, Bob.
Excuse me, called Theodore, floating closer to Owen. Are you and Northumberland friends?
Sure, best friends.
But you're both kind of, well, different, Theodore went on.
We are?
Well, Theodore couldn't believe it. You see, he thought Northumberland and Owen were about as different as, well, as different as he and George. But here they were, friends. I wonder, thought Theodore. The next morning, Theodore and George went to take Caracat out of the harbor. Now strong winds were blowing up and down the coast. The waves were crashing right up to Theodore's bumpers. Right away, he knew he was in for some really tough tugging today. especially with George in charge. Once again, all Theodore could think about was keeping Caracat steady so that she'd have a smooth ride out of the harbor. But once again, George was vrooming and booming and blowing and blasting and going as fast as he could. The great ship was rolling this way and that on the wind and the waves. Theodore was swinging and swaying right along with her. He pulled his tow rope tight to hold on. "Oh!" grunted Theodore. "How will I ever keep this ship steady all the way out to the ocean?" Just then, Northumberland passed close by, slipping back into the harbor from a night deep under the ocean. And seeing the sub gave Theodore an idea. Maybe, he thought, yes, it was the only thing to do. "George? George!" he cried above the wind and the waves.
What is it, Theodore?
George shouted back.
"I'm having trouble keeping Caracat steady. Could you please go slower and not make so much noise?"
Oh, sure.
Bellowed George.
"You will?"
Sure I will.
Repeated George.
Oh, and let out more tow rope. You'll be fine.
Theodore quickly let out his tow rope, and it was just like magic. With George going nice and slow and being quiet, Theodore could pay attention. And further away from Caracat, he didn't swing and sway along with the big ship. He could pull her just as smooth as seaweed. All of a sudden, it seemed easier for George, too. George blew his whistle.
Almost there, Theodore.
Theodore blew back with his whistle.
"Right behind you, George."
Well, in no time at all, Caracat was blowing her horn goodbye to the tugs.
Boy, that was tough tugging,
Said George.
I couldn't have done it without you.
You couldn't? Said Theodore.
Sure,
Said George.
oh, we're a great team.
"George, I hope you're not upset because I asked you to be quiet and to slow down."
Of course not. I didn't even know it was bothering you.
Well, Theodore just had to smile,
We'll have some really good stories to tell tonight.
said George.
"We sure will,"
Said Theodore.
"We sure will."
You know, Theodore's story gave me an idea about how to get my new walkie-talkie working. Excuse me. Hello? Chief Harbor Master. Yes, I can't seem to get my new walkie-talkie to work. Uh-huh. 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 Oh. Yes, thank you very much. Goodbye. I think I got it worked out now. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor. We'll see you all again next time. I forgot to turn it on. No?